Governor, nice to see you. Thank you for doing this.
Pleasure.
How close was this decision? You listened to you speaking today, and it sounded like a no-brainer, but there are a lot of people thinking this could have gone either way.
Well, look, we take all our decisions very seriously. We know they're having a big impact on Canadians. If you go back to what we said the last few meetings, we said we're looking for further and sustained easing in underlying inflation. And when we looked at the run of data since the beginning of the year, inflation has been coming consistently down, and with 4 months now in a row, it's looking more sustained. So yes, there was a consensus across the Governing Council that it is time to reduce the degree of monetary restraint.
And you've not only reduced the degree of monetary restraint, but really opened the door to further. And I know you don't want to get pinned down saying that it's a meeting-to-meeting decision, but how urgent is it, if rates are restrictive where they are, how urgent is it to get off of those and get to a place where they're not sort of actively slowing the economy?
Well, as you just said, look with a policy rate of 4 3/4, we're still in restrictive territory. And look, inflation's still 2.7%. Our measures of core inflation are still around 2 3/4. We still need a degree of monetary restraint. We just don't need as much. Look, looking forward, yes, we're not on a predetermined path for interest rates. We're going to be taking it one interest rate decision at a time. And the timing of any further cuts, they're really going to depend on how things evolve. We're going to be looking at the data as it's coming out and assessing what does that mean for the future path for inflation.
These last couple of years, few years frankly, have been really tough for Canadian households, whether they're renters or mortgage holders. It's been a really difficult time. People are angry, people are frustrated. Do you worry about central bank sort of communications through this and the ability of that central bank credibility to emerge from this tough period intact?
I do. I think it has been a very difficult period for Canadians. We went through an incredibly difficult pandemic. Coming out of it, we all got really excited, but we had an inflation problem. Inflation went up really sharply. We had to raise rates very forcefully. That has squeezed Canadians. I think the fact that today we were able to lower our policy rate is a measure that those policies are working. And I think one thing that we've had to relearn a bit from this period is that people hate inflation. It really cuts into their budget. They get a raise, but then they go shopping and they realize my money's not buying what it used to. It makes people angry. It does. It erodes confidence in our economy, in our system. And so that is a worry. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to get inflation back down. Yeah, we have we've taken a bit of a hit, and we're going to have to rebuild that trust.
Senior Deputy Governor Rogers had a really interesting quote, I think it was last week, saying what's really important to us is that Canadians understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and that they understand that we are thinking about them and that we have their best interests at heart when we make decisions. Do you think right now, today, most Canadians believe that about what the central bank is doing?
We do poll Canadians. We still see that most Canadians, they trust the central bank. They see it as a neutral, independent body that is taking decisions in the best interest of Canadians. Not everyone is happy about every decision, and it has been a difficult time. But I think the Senior Deputy Governor put it very well. We do survey Canadians regularly, and that helps us understand the impact our interest rates are having on their decisions, and that is something that feeds into our decisions.
The political aspect of that, there are people tapping into that anger, specifically around this institution, but institutions writ large in this country. The head of the Supreme Court of Canada spoke about that recently and asked politicians to sort of back off a little bit when attacking that institution. Do you have a message to politicians that are attacking this institution?
Well, first of all, my message to Canadians is you can be assured that our decisions are guided by our mandate and our judgment about what we need to do to deliver on that mandate. We do speak to Canadians. We survey them regularly. We're hearing from them. Obviously, our elected politicians, they're hearing from their constituents too, and they're expressing their opinions. But I want to assure you, and I want to assure all Canadians, that we are taking our decisions independent of governments. And look, that independence is always important. It's been particularly important over the last 2 years when the decisions have been so difficult. We're seeing the value of that independence. Inflation's come down, and we lowered our policy rate today.
And now we've got a whole batch of new data coming between now and your next meeting. Is it really as simple as that? You just monitor it and make a decision? Or do you have a bias that you sort of lean towards one way or the other?
We have a bias, and that is get inflation back to 2%. Obviously, we have a baseline, and I've indicated that if things evolve broadly as we expect, yeah, it's reasonable to expect further interest rate declines. But we know there could be some bumps along the way. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to jeopardize the hard-won progress that's been made. So we're going to take it one decision at a time. But yes, if inflation continues to ease, if the economy evolves as we expect, yes, it is reasonable to expect the direction of travel is further interest rate cuts.
Well, and I think a lot of Canadians look forward to the next Bank of Canada decision in July. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much.